Hello, welcome to episode 3 of The Drive. So these tend to be somewhat thought out and somewhat off the cuff. I know most people who do podcasts, especially if it's a one person podcast and not the conversation style, will have things pretty well mapped out and may even have a script they're going to go off of where they put a ton of thought into stuff. Usually for me, I'm doing these as I'm inspired, and it's usually something that is bubbling up to the surface. So, for instance, today I'd like to talk about being of service, just because of something that occurred this morning that made me think of it. But this is also something that I've put some thought into before. I've, written some journal entries on it. Tried to come up with an essay, if you will, or an article, and I've talked about it when I was doing my preliminary workups to basically getting the courage and the to do this and to try and get the sound right, or as close as I could. So if these always seem kind of like half-assed, that's just me. So what does it mean to be of service? How can we be of service? Why should we be of service? And how do you find ways to do that? So I have advanced in my career and in the things that I want to pursue most often because I'm finding something that needs to be done that nobody either is willing to do or knows how to do, or it's a gap that nobody else has really stumbled on yet or recognized. When it came to work, I've always just been curious, so I try to learn a lot. And I've been doing what I do now for over 20 years. I work for a Mercedes dealership. I'm a parts advisor. If somebody needs to look up an oil filter, that's what I do. It sounds really stupid. Basically is. I mean, I absolutely see it being replaced by AI in the next 10 to 15 years. But right now, luckily for me, the the setup Mercedes uses is really screwed up on the back end, where it's very clunky and not terribly well laid out, and you do need a person to parse through it. So the things that I have done that have gotten me where I am have always been because I'm trying to figure something out or trying to fill a spot. I was really, really bad at it when I first started because I was in my early 20s. I did not pay attention to detail, which is something you really have to do, and just kind of assumed a lot of things and was completely lost. I had no idea how cars worked or anything about anything of a mechanical nature when I started. But I eventually learned to shut up and pay attention and look at the little details of things to figure out why something does or does not work for a specific vehicle. And developing those skills has really stood me in good stead in other pursuits I wanted to follow. I used to do home brewing, and you have to be pretty precise about the details of what you're adding when, and the measurements, and how the different profiles of grain roast and selection of hops can really affect the beer. In jiu-jitsu, like paying attention to the details is the key for everything. Really, you can gain a lot of jiu-jitsu just from being on the mats and being exposed to it, but it's very difficult to get good at it without paying attention to details. You can have the same shape in general, and for one person it'll look like they're effortless and they can make it go the way they want to, and for another person it's just a weird shape and they can never do anything with it. The configuration of the bodies might look the same from the outside, but in practice, the person who seems like they're doing things effortlessly has all the details, and they're not trying to advance to another thing until they've nailed down the preliminary thing that will make it work. And when I came to the dealership that I'm at now, I saw that there was a hole where they had started to do online sales, where everybody sells nowadays, eBay and Amazon. But this was over 10 years ago, and that was very rare in the car world to sell from your dealership in any way other than out the door to a customer or to a local repair facility, a wholesale shop. And bad car accident up here. That's something that I thought was pretty interesting that they had decided to take that on, but the person who was doing it didn't have any familiarity with computers or websites and was overworked. And I figured this is something I can do. I can take this on and I can help because I at least grew up with computers. I'm willing to try. I have no idea how this works, but I'll give it a shot. And that really stood me in good stead. Just being willing to try the new thing and to take on and try to fill a gap and take the burden off of somebody has really advanced my career. And in my hobbies, in my pursuits, because I consider jiu-jitsu more than a hobby, I consider it a pursuit. It's what as I've said before, it's the way I want to approach life. Anything I want to fix in myself, I'm going to try to hash out on the mats and figure out there first. Or at least get it exposed there and then realize, oh, I need to figure that out for the rest of my life too. And that has advanced for me simply by volunteering. So obviously when you first start off something, you're pretty much of no use. You're brand new at it. You don't have any idea of how it works. You're actually more of a burden than anything. You're not helpful to the situation. But if you are able to gain some small level of skill to the point where you can be of service, it's going to be amazing how fast you can turn that around. The See if I can clip that out. How that worked out for me has been I was a white belt, trained mostly evenings, then started to have to transition to training in the mornings. And there was only 2 mornings available per week at that point, Tuesday and Thursday. And they were great, wonderful class, but it's very hard to improve with only 2 hours a week. And trying to do both nights and mornings was really, really rough. For me, at least, I don't get to sleep fast enough and then get enough good recovery sleep in that amount of time. So I basically had to choose the one or the other. And when I finally chose to go to mornings because that was what best fit for life between my family and my work schedule, I realized we're not getting a whole lot here. And when I got my blue belt, I finally felt like, okay, they've decided I'm not a complete idiot on the mats. I haven't hurt anybody. And I am, an adult, and they seem to think I'm reasonably responsible. They trust me not to hurt anybody, basically. Let me ask if I can offer to host an open mat, which is just saying I will be here. The facility will be open. You can come train as you like. I didn't have any skills at that point where I could teach other people, but I could be available as a body for people to learn on and to clean the mats when people were done. So luckily for me, the school that I train at is very much about empowering people and helping them to improve themselves and helping them to grow. And for me, taking on that responsibility was growth, that kind of putting myself out there, because I was not the kind of person who would really put themselves at the front of the room or say that, hey, I think I can do something. So that was kind of a big step for me at that point. And they said yes, which was awesome. And it grew pretty quick. People said, hey, this is great. Yeah, we like the extra training time. So we went from 2 to 3 days, and then it finally branched out until we got Friday and we got Monday on the schedule, and it was good. And that schedule has changed, and you do find there's a saturation point where if you give people too many options, you're not going to get a great attendance at some of them. So it's almost too much. Just too many options. you water it down. So we backed off, and then we started adding on again once more experienced folks said, hey, you know what? I'm going to try and step up and fill a need as well. We need another class in the mornings. And my friend Joe started teaching on Fridays. And then my friend Nick took over for him when he had to switch schedules. They inspired me that when I got my purple belt, I said, you know what? I see another hole here where folks who are only training in the morning are not necessarily getting exposed to the fundamentals, the very beginning pieces that they need, the building blocks, if you will. And you can pick them up. As I said, you can be just through time on the mat, you'll pick them up. And our mixed level class is great. People are very helpful, but it's not paced for you to be a beginner. So I said, let me step up and try to show that. I may not be a great instructor. I'm obviously not the most knowledgeable person in jiu-jitsu. I'm at like a mid-level rank, the purple belt, and I won't say I'm the greatest purple belt, but I know the basics. I can see the basics. I can explain the basics. Well, let me step up and do that. So I started doing that on Wednesdays, and then eventually decided that, you know what, there is no availability whatsoever for us to train in this other portion of the sport called Nogi, where we don't have the traditional karate uniform on. And I know nothing about it. So I said, well, I'll try, and started doing that on Mondays. And since then, we've had another gentleman, my friend Bo, who said, you know, I'd like to try to be an instructor as well. I think that's somewhere I'm kind of called to and I can add to things. So he started taking over on the Wednesdays. So it's really cool to see how just saying, I don't know, but I'll try, has worked out for me, for the morning crew, for a bunch of other people who have gone on to be really good instructors who I learned from. It's been a lot of fun. And you know, there's no such thing as true altruism. Like, you do stuff and you get stuff back. You know, there is no, unless you're dying for somebody, and usually if you're dying for them, it's because you value their life more than your own and you're willing to do that. Like, I get a lot back out of it. I either get the experience and the skill from the people who go on, and now like there's other classes open up that I can take and train in, or I get the benefit of digging deeper into the techniques because I have to turn around and teach people them, and I get to see people grow, which is very rewarding to me. So that's how I'm of service within my community. I have found little spots and I volunteered to try them. And I've had so much growth in the pursuit of the art because of it. And there's so many more opportunities for me now because of it. And I think that's something we don't necessarily clue in on in our society, at least in modern day. I think there might have been a bit more community service, voluntary community service in the past, maybe in my childhood, probably before, where we had more community functions, groups that just were there to help people or were there to pursue something because you all thought it was interesting. But I know for me, I've spent a lot of my life like wondering why I can't have the things other people have, can't get to the places other people do, can't advance, can't get skills, can't do whatever. And the one thing that has consistently worked for me is having a little bit of a fuck it, I'm going to give it a shot attitude, and then finding a spot where, you know, I don't really think I'm qualified, and there's probably people who can do it better, but nobody is. So let me see if I can volunteer to help here and take this on. And I would really like to see that happen more in society, and I'm not sure how to generate that at a grassroots level. But I'd be very interested, if you're listening to this, to know your stories. Have you ever experienced the same? Have you ever tried to build a culture of that nature where you're getting other people to say, hey, I'm going to take something on? I think that can-do attitude is part of the American dream, for lack of a better term. I really hate the mindset that's currently out there right now behind the phrase "Make America Great Again," because it acts like we had hit some pinnacle at some point and we've fallen from it. And I think usually it's looking at just the sheer growth and wealth we had coming off World War II, because we came out of that as world power and we were better off than pretty much everybody else on the globe. And maybe financially, that was where we really kind of skyrocketed from everybody having essentially poverty level lifestyles coming out of the Great Depression into everybody having a, like building a middle class, which hadn't really existed before. But if you look at it, we were still really jacked up as a country. We didn't have the same civil liberties that we do now. Civil rights, the civil rights movement of the 60s really did a lot of that. And while there's a lot of maybe weird things that have come about in the last, say, 20 years, things that I think really were pushing the envelope very hard for some folks, and people started to push back because they were uncomfortable. Overall, if you look at it, to be anybody other than a straight white man born into wealth, this has been in my lifetime the best time to be alive. It's been the safest time. It's going to give you the most advantages. Like, it's been the place to be. So I think the American dream is something. It's still a dream. It's still an ideal we set for ourselves. I love the movie The Gladiator, and early on in it, there's the character. It's the character of Marcus Aurelius. I don't think it's a great portrayal of the man himself, but he says there was a dream once that was Rome. You could only whisper it, or else for fear it would fly away. And I think that's kind of what we all aim for with America. Is there is a story we tell ourselves about America and about how great it is. And I don't think we've ever gotten there. I don't think that means we should stop trying. We should be realistic about what we actually are and what we actually have been. But that doesn't mean we can't stop trying to be great and trying to be the place of the most freedom for the most people. And I think some of that starts from just that being willing to take something on for your community and that can do attitude. Like, that's how people build businesses. Just like, you know what? Fucking, I'm going to try it. I can do this. And yeah, we love the survivors. We have survivor bias. We tell the success stories, and we don't ever tell about all the very high percentage of people who failed out trying. But I guarantee you, even people who fail out while trying are improved by their experience. They gain a lot of skills and knowledge in life. And I've said a few times, I'm just spitballing it, I wish there was a way that you could build that mindset. Just give people an idea that you can do it, that you can go out, you can help, and you can gain skills, and you can learn from it. And I don't know if there's any way to do it. Okay, big dream moment here. So we have military service where you can go and they train you, they house you, they feed you, you learn skills. They're not applicable in most instances, at least if you are a grunt like me. You don't gain a lot of tangible skills that equate back to life unless you want to be a janitor. But you do learn a lot of life lessons and you gain a lot of character skills. Now, there's other more technical fields within the military where you definitely get some skills that can transfer over to civilian life. But that idea that you can go and be trained, fed, housed, and gain experience is something I really like. And I understand military service is not for everybody, and I don't think it should be for everybody. But I wish there was another avenue for people to pursue those skills that can benefit the community, the country as a whole. And if I had my way, there would be a 2 to a 4 year service for people once, same thing, same time frame. You hit 18, you're eligible to join. It's not the military. It's not an armed position. It's not deployable. Could be deployable, I guess. But it's a way to get you out of whatever inner city or small town or place that doesn't have opportunities that you grew up in, and gets you different skills that you can take out into the world. And you're fed, clothed, and housed. You can get it wouldn't be the GI Bill, but you would be able to get college credit or money towards college for completing your term of service. And it would be go out and do all of the things we need for infrastructure in our country. Learn how to work on a road crew, learn how to be an electrician, learn plumbing, learn land management, engineering, all of these different things that you could learn and apply and do and build our country back up with, because we have some horrible infrastructure. Anything you could do that would be of service in a community, that I think would be an awesome experience for people. Because I mean, you could apply it broadly. Like it could be medical, it could be community service. It could be anything that right now we either pay people to do and we look down on them for doing, or in some areas, and I have some misgivings about where we might be going with it in the future, but areas right now where you have um, work release programs for prisons doing it, that's something where you could no, we can teach people skills doing this. We can pay people to do this. We can give them something, they can get back from it, and it shouldn't be just a punishment. So I don't know. That's my pie in the sky. If I had a chance to wave a magic wand and add or remove something from society, that's something I would add. But yeah, that's my thought of how to be a good citizen. One of the ways, I think a lot of these are turning into a half-assed civics lesson for myself as I go along, would be of service. That's how you add value. That's how you make yourself valuable. And if you want to advance at all, if you want to get paid more, if you want to be applauded, if you want the accolades, whatever it is you want, probably the way you're going to get it is to be more valuable. And you are more valuable when you do more things and you have more experience and you show that you are willing to take things on. So yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up. And again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I know some of these are going to be kind of controversial, and I don't know, once people kind of find these and I get them out there and I've introduced them to people, I hope you don't hate me. I hope it doesn't change our relationship too much, but I'd love to have conversations about these things. I would love to have some civil discourse with people because I don't think we do it that much anymore. And I'm willing to be taught. I'm willing to change my mind on things. I have changed my mind radically from where I was on a lot of things in the last 20 years. So, yeah, let's have some conversations. All right. Hope to see you again next time. Take care.